Excited about Airsoft? Hit the like button and comment to join other Airsofters in the conversation. What's up, Airsofters? AK-style rifles are among the most popular and prolific small arms in the world today, and for good reason. They're relatively simple, relatively affordable, and above all, supremely reliable. The Kalashnikov company, named after the inventor of the AK, is known for making some of the best AKs out there. But that's real rifles. Luckily, the world of Airsoft has its own Kalashnikov of sorts. There is one company that's been around forever that is perhaps known more for their AEG AKs than any other model they make, and that is Cyma. Now, I would argue that Cyma is the Kalashnikov of Airsoft, because like Kalashnikov, Cyma AKs are simple, affordable, and reliable. They have a reputation to work well out of the box and just seem to keep working. And that's what makes them such great AEGs, not only for beginners, but for experienced players as well. On top of that reliability, the externals are very nice, especially on the full metal real wood versions, like this one here. This is a Cyma standard CM048 AK-74 style AEG, and like I mentioned, it has real wood furniture and a real stamped metal receiver, which makes it not only look very nice, but feels sturdy and has a good weight to it. Let's go over it in detail so you know exactly what you're getting when you pick one up for yourself. And when you do pick one up, it's going to come in a box, much like this one. Let's take a look inside the box and see how it arrives to you. When we open the box, we get the foam out of the way and see the AK positioned nicely inside with the instruction manual, the AK itself sitting nicely in foam, the included magazine, extra BBs, and the front sight adjustment tool. Like a true AK, there's no frills or fanfare with this AEG. It's all about function. But that's the beauty of the AK, and it's something Cyma does very, very well. The only polymer on this whole AEG is the pistol grip, the magazine, and the orange tip, which is federally mandated at the point of sale here in the US. At the muzzle end of this replica, we've got a correct and iconic AK-74 muzzle brake, which is threaded onto a larger AK-style threads and held in place with a spring-loaded pin and a ton of glue. Now, there are 14mm negative threads underneath this adapter that convert the outer barrel to a 24mm larger AK threading. So, for you tracer unit and mock suppressor guys, if you want to attach something, you've got some work to do. Now, you'll notice that the inner barrel comes just to the opening of the muzzle brake, which is cool to see that the full length of the 455mm inner barrel is protected and disguised. Just behind that is the front sight, which is adjustable for elevation with a AK sight adjustment tool, or you can drift it left or right. This AEG does come with a mock cleaning rod underneath the barrel, which is removable, though I don't recommend that you try to use this for any cleaning or unjamming of this AEG. It's just a nice realistic touch. There's also some bayonet lugs on the bottom here, and again, they're just for looks. Now, above the outer barrel is the model correct AK-74 style mock gas port. Then we get to the handguard, which, as we mentioned, is real wood. There's a nice swell on the lower portion that really fills the hand nicely and reminds you that you're holding a classic steel and wood rifle. The rear leaf sight is classic AK, adjustable for distance using the slide with clear white painted distance markings. Now, of course, these replicate what the real rifle would have on it and really aren't very accurate for how far an Airsoft BB would shoot, but they're still there. Also, I think it's funny that the rear sight is forward of where a rear sight might be on another rifle. Now, if you want to add an optic rail to the Cyma AK-74, there is a side-mounted optic rail provided. Just remember that this rail is AK specific for AK optics. If you want to add another type of optic, you will need a side-mounted Picatinny rail adapter. Now that latches on to the side mount rail and brings Picatinny up over the dust cover. Thankfully, we carry these here at Evike.com. Then we get to the dust cover, which is removable. Now, this is where many AK replicas would store the battery, but not on this baby. Oh no. We'll get to the battery compartment in just a moment. Here you can see the metal hop-up, a nice touch, with a full metal gearbox, which you should expect from a Cyma product. No cheap polymer internals here. The receiver is full metal, stamped steel with fake rivets that really complete the look of the rifle. On the right side, there is a charging handle for the mock bolt. Pulling this back reveals the hop-up adjustment, which slides forward for less hop and back for more hop. And a quick note here, be careful when adjusting your hop-up because you can bump the adjustment out of place if you're not careful when you release the charging handle. And what I mean by that is doing cool AK reloads and going to power stroke this and accidentally bumping your hop-up unit. Just refrain from frantically charging it and you should be fine. The pistol grip is polymer and that classic Russian plum purple color. Note again Cyma's attention to detail with the correct grip and receiver interface here shared between the AK-74 and AKM. And lastly, there's the real wood stock, which you might notice is thicker than a real stock would be. And that's because the battery is stored in the stock on this AEG, which is great for battery selection. What's maybe not so great is how you get to it. In order to access the battery compartment, you have to remove these two screws that hold the back plate in place. Which of course means remembering to bring a Phillips screwdriver with you. But you've all got multi-tools, right? Now we had no problem fitting a Titan Power 11.1 volt 2600 milliamp lithium ion brick style battery in the back here, but you could just as easily use an 11.1 volt butterfly style or a 1250 stick type that's also compatible with the buffer tubes of your other AEGs. The one battery that won't fit is an AK stick type battery, which I find hilarious. Something that makes the AK such a widely used and easily learned platform is the controls layout. The controls are simple, easy to operate, easy to understand. The selector plate, for example, is on safe at its highest setting, drops once into full auto, and drops again into its lowest position for semi-automatic. Notice this beauty mark on the side of the receiver. This is not a flaw. This is an AK. Extracting a magazine during a reload could not be more simple, thanks to the center-aligned mag release latch, which can be actuated by either hand or by depressing it with the face of a fresh magazine, which is about to replace the one you're dropping. If you're unfamiliar with how AKs reload, it's not quite as simple as loading a new magazine vertically like some other platforms. The magazine needs to be rocked into place, starting with the front lip. It's easy once you get used to it, but it will take a bit of practice to do quickly. Thankfully, Cyma has installed a guide plate to prevent over-insertion and to help guide the magazine into place, making reloads even easier, even while you're not looking into the mag well. Speaking of the magazine, this AEG ships with a 74 style 600 round high cap mag. Now, in the real world, AK-74s and AK-47s use different magazines on account of them using different sized cartridges. Thankfully, in Airsoft, the two magazine styles are for the most part interchangeable. So if you're more about practicality and you already have one style of magazine, don't be afraid to run them, even if they're not technically for this model. Just be aware that some purists may push up their glasses and lecture you about how, this isn't designed for blah, blah, blah. Shades, I'm looking at you. And that just about covers the externals of the Cyma AK-74. And while they've definitely delivered in that department, where Cyma really shines is the out-of-the-box performance and internals. So we're heading out to the range to see how this baby stacks up. Our FPS test showed an average of just about 350 FPS and about 18 rounds per second on full auto when using 0.20 gram BBs and a Titan Power 2600 milliamp 11.1 volt lithium ion battery. In our distance and accuracy test, this Cyma AK-74 was able to land most shots on our 6-inch plate and placed a nice tight grouping on our Evike Professional silhouette target at 50 feet. Out at the 100-foot mark, the spread grew considerably. Thankfully, we were still able to land a few hits on a body-sized silhouette target. This AK certainly doesn't suffer in the distance department. We had plenty of room on the hop-up adjustment for heavier BBs and longer shots. But if you'd like to improve the accuracy at distance and tighten up your groupings a bit, an upgraded inner barrel, hop-up bucking, and nub, all of which are available here at Evike.com, would certainly do the trick. Ask anyone with the strength of a Cyma AKR, and the first thing they'll mention is the gearbox. Cyma is known for rock-solid AK internals, and this one is no different. Inside the version 3 gearbox, you have Cyma's iconic blue grease covering just about everything, which isn't a negative, but they do have a reputation for going a bit overboard. Suffice to say, a Cyma will never be accused of being under-lubricated. The gears are robust, 18:1 ratio, riding on 6mm bushings. The piston is polymer with a single metal tooth and a ported polymer piston head. There's no thrust bearing inside the piston, but there is a good bearing on the metal spring guide, which is really all you need. The cylinder is not ported. The cylinder head is polymer with a single O-ring, and the nozzle does not have an O-ring. Compression out of the box is less than ideal, but it can be improved with a compression kit, available here on our website. The wiring harness and trigger are of the standard AEG variety, but can be easily swapped with any compatible version 3 MOSFET. Worth noting is that the standard wires are fitted with Tamiya connectors. 2 sets of them in fact, one at the battery end and another that connects the wires inside the stock to the wires that come out of the gearbox. So if you plan on moving to Dean's or Airsoft T-plugs, then you're going to want to replace both sets of connectors. The best part about these AKs is that they're compatible with the vast majority of version 3 upgrade parts available. So if you're into teching and upgrading your gear, the Cyma AK is an excellent platform to build upon. Like the Kalashnikov-designed AK variants of the real world, these Cyma AKs represent an affordable, reliable, durable platform that should be guaranteed a spot in your lineup. The classic lines, robust internals, and real wood furniture make this AK a definite crowd favorite. You can find this Cyma AK-74 and many other AK variants right here at Evike.com. Thanks for watching. Don't miss out on the action. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, check out our TikTok, and join us on Facebook for everything Airsoft.